So when I was in high school, I had two teachers who totally changed the way I thought about learning. One was my geometry teacher, and I was failing her class. I'm the perfectionist type who studied and did all the homework, but for whatever reason, just couldn't get it. So I'd go to these tutoring sessions before school where she kept asking me, "Why can't you get the right answer? Why can't you just do what it says?" I remember thinking, well, if I could get the right answer, I probably wouldn't be here. I met the second teacher when I transferred schools the next year. He opened our class with this truth bomb that left everybody speechless. "There is no right answer," he said. "There's just what you think, how you learn, and how you see it." So with that being said, I spent a lot of time in high school wondering, I love learning, but am I smart enough for education? It goes without saying that in geometry, there's definitely a right answer. But what that second teacher said gave me an idea, and it's an idea I want to share with you. There is more than one way of learning, and it has less to do with textbooks and tests and more to do with you. Take a second and look around the room, because everybody in here has two things in common. One, we all learn differently, and two, we're learning all the time. Let's dispel a myth. Learning is not just a school thing. It's a life thing. I'm about to say the reverse of everything school has probably told you. Real learning is not about knowing the right answer. Learning is about not knowing the answer, because what happens when you don't know something? You go out and you learn it. In our world of tests and classes where you study how to take tests, this probably sounds crazy, but you're learning all the time, not just at school. We make learning into this academic thing, but really, we learn because it's part of who we are and how we build our lives. When you think about it, that's all we are. We're collections of learning, like experiences, dreams, and even mistakes. To kind of illustrate this point that we're learning even when we don't know it's happening, I was thinking about a day I drove home with my windows down and passed this big group of kids playing outside. One little boy was running down the sidewalk screaming, "I don't have to learn today!" He was very excited. Obviously, what he probably meant was he was excited to be out of school. But it dawned on me that he didn't realize he was learning right then. When you're a kid and you're playing outside, you invent games, you make up your own rules, you solve problems without your mom and dad, and basically spend your time being creative little leaders. If you ask me, we could learn a thing or two from the kids. But we don't think that's learning. Why? Because we don't get a grade on it? That got me thinking that a lot of us try so hard to get the right answers in school, or even just in life, we miss the lessons happening right in front of us. One of the biggest learning experiences of my life I will never get a grade on. When I was 16, I decided to write a book. I didn't do it to learn, I did it because I loved writing and felt like I had a story to tell. But what I didn't anticipate was how many people would tell me not to. They told me to wait until I was older, wait until I learned how to write a book. I wrote because I loved it, but I learned to write by writing. So very long story short, that book didn't get published despite a lot of trying, and to be honest, I felt like a total failure. I started wondering whether it really had been a mistake or a huge waste of time. But the thing I've learned since then is that mistakes are the most extraordinary teachers. Turns out that particular mistake I should have waited on paid off. The rights to that manuscript just got optioned, which means a producer wants to try to turn it into a TV show. None of that counted for a grade, but Sir Ken Robinson tweeted recently that just because you can't count it doesn't mean it doesn't count. I'd like to take that one step further. Just because you don't know it counts doesn't mean it doesn't. Sometimes when we think of school, we think of tests, grades, stress, success. We think of the many, many ways we're measured, like ACTs and GPAs. But the truth is, some of what you learn can't be measured. And it's going to help you build your life, from your career to your relationship, in ways these tests just won't. Don't take my word for it. Laszlo Bock, the person in charge of hiring at Google, said, GPAs are worthless as a criteria for hiring, and test scores are worthless. We found that they don't predict anything. Learning, on the other hand, doesn't just predict, it builds. Learning gives you the opportunity to build those mistakes, experiences, and dreams into a life. I have this theory on dreams in regard to how we learn. It's not scientific, but it makes sense to me, so maybe it'll make sense to you too. Dreams are just lessons you haven't learned yet. So the next time someone scoffs at your dream, your talent, your passion, let them roll their eyes and you do it anyway. Because these things we have within us, like beliefs and interests, they're not random. They're part of your education too, a huge part, and they count even if they never show up on a test. You learn when you struggle with something or when you have to be brave. You learn when you have an idea and choose to spread it, or feel the truth and decide to tell it. You learn through your experiments, and especially your mistakes, because trust me, those things that feel like monumental failures are just lessons in disguise. It's no secret to anyone in here, but especially students, that schools like to focus on the end a lot. The end of the semester, the end result. Too bad all the good stuff happens in the middle. We're supposed to take these ends, like graduations and test scores, seriously. We're supposed to want teachers to take us seriously, to value the way we learn. But what I've learned is that we have to value ourselves. We have to take our journeys seriously, because that's where the experiences are. That's where the real education is. I want you to stop for a second and think back on your life, to the very middle of it. The challenges, the moments you didn't understand, the times you were inspired. There is knowledge in those moments. It's what your life has been teaching you. Don't wait for it to count on your score report, because it counts in your life even if you failed geometry. Steve Jobs, one of the greatest innovators of our time, who was notorious for his struggle in school, said once that he wanted to make a dent in the universe. He knew a thing or two about learning outside the classroom. So with that in mind, and the idea that we have all of this learning built up inside of us, here is my challenge to you. Pick up every lesson, the collection of right answers and wrong ones, experiences, dreams, mistakes, learning from inside the classroom and outside it, and turn it into your educational sledgehammer. Let your learning build your life, because that's the education that's going to shape the world. It's what has the power to change things, to make a difference that matters. Never stop learning. Make your dent.